I learned this and this is fun, let me try to profit on it. And guess what? It's not working. There's so many reasons why it's not working. Brand, visibility, trust, likability, leadership. There's so many reasons why. It's like, be a devoted student to yourself first. Really, sustainability within the CEO is that rooted and groundedness in the full embodiment of yourself. Hi guys, I'm Jenna Kennedy and I am so excited to be on this series with you. I honestly don't even know what to call myself nowadays. I once upon a time was a 7-figure business coach, and then I went through this massive season of, you could say, burnout, but really rediscovering who it is that I am and the work that it is that I want to do in this world. And so I'm breaking into a completely new industry. And honestly, at this season in my life, I'm living, I'm learning, I'm growing a human, and I'm just bringing people along on that ride and on that journey to really build a life and a business and a legacy and an impact that is so uniquely yours and nobody else's. So come on along. I'm excited to be on this series and see you there.
Hey, I'm Taylor Davis. Welcome to Wildly Satisfied. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back. I'm super excited for this episode. I think these have all been amazing in terms of what we've been talking about with burnout and being a satisfied CEO, as I like to call it.
I love that.
Because something with wildly satisfied, why I even created this is, if you're not satisfied, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
And sitting down with you, Jenna Kennedy, however, anyone you want to say it. Why you were always Jenna, right? But then you went to Jen
For business.
Yep. And now you're going back to full on.
Yeah, we're going back.
I love it. Okay. Well, we were sitting down talking about burnout, and we've talked a lot about the science behind it and dopamine and basically how to restructure, how to recover little by little every single day. And what I really want to dive into is having a sustainable business and being a satisfied CEO and what that looks like. Because if you're coming out of burnout, or you're like, hey, I feel like I might be headed towards a burnout.
For sure.
And I want to shift some things, I think the last couple of episodes could really, really do that for you.
Definitely.
And when we've gotten there, when we've recalibrated, what does the future of business look like? And the CEO leadership, feminine-based leadership look like if we're not doing it in the model of what we were taught? And so I would love to hear how you're approaching that right now, because you've just made this big shift.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Well, I would say, to like really bring it all together is like all that life stuff has got to come first, right? Like truly, like you and your satisfaction with yourself and your life has to come first. Because I think that historically, as a society, and even as an entrepreneur, it's gotten really way too easy to escape our life and do work and kind of bury ourselves in work. We see it in the movies, we see it everywhere where, when you're at work, you're one person, and then when you're home, you're another person.
Oh my God, yeah, talk about an identity crisis.
Yep, and this is, it's tough, and when you're an entrepreneur, we don't really have those boundaries because we could turn on work at any point in time.
Yeah.
Do you know? And so we really get to build the life and the you and the relationships and whatever else, and then really look at, now that I'm from this place of wholeness, what does it look like to be a CEO and a leader? Because I know a lot of people, and that myself included, the wholeness wasn't always there. And I was like, okay, now let me do this business. And then this is when it gets really easy for the money and the accolades and the success and the vision and the goals and to spill into our everyday life. But when you have the satisfaction in life, then there's a natural boundary of now, what does it look like in business? So I think that is first and foremost. And then from there, I think the biggest question to start asking yourself is, what's the impact that I want to have in this world? What are my values?
Yeah.
And then how do I want to do it? I believe, one of the first books I ever read about personal development outside of my master's degree was The Big Leap.
Oh my God, that was my first book too.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's such a good one. It's such a good one.
So good. I remember before I ever got into personal development, that was the one book I was like, oh, what is this?
So good.
It's so good. And it just set me off on a whole, like, that entrepreneurship path, honestly.
I actually just reread it last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
I deleted Instagram for 9 days and I read 2 books instead.
I love it.
It was really fun. But it was on the shelf and I was like, I'm gonna reread it. But I really strongly believe in working in your zone of genius.
Yes, absolutely.
I know I mentioned it in another episode, and so what's my vision? How do I want to help people? And then what is my zone of genius? And can I craft a company that I'm staying in my zone of genius?
Yes.
And it can have the impact and can make the money that I want to make in this world.
Because you can.
Because you can.
There's this narrative that I really want to squash around, well, I have to be all the things. And a lot of that is what I call solopreneur mentality. It's the whatever narrative around entrepreneurship that's out there around, like, well, you need to be able to do all the things, run all the hats, wear them all. And sometimes I find especially when someone's like going through a burnout phase, they're like, oh my God, well, let me just go back to simplicity where it's just me. And I was like, yes, I totally get that. And if you're trying to move forward with your life, you don't need to go 20 steps back where you're doing it all alone, you're isolating and you're not moving forward. Completely. Because you're trying to quote unquote be in simplicity. Yeah. Or you're trying to stabilize, which is beautiful, but it's like, how can you just take 2 steps back, take the complex, make it simple, but not go at it alone, and slowly start moving forward.
Completely.
And so, I love that you said that. Continue.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. It's like, how do I structure this? And how do I do this? And how do I build this from this place? Yeah. From the place of wholeness, from the place of, I know my vision and I know my role in the vision. How do I then move forward and actually be able to bring that to life? Yeah. And I think that's, we've talked a lot about, we've continuously moved this topic. I know. We're like, which is the aligned structures within your business model. Yes. Right? Like, okay, if my zone of genius, let's say that someone's zone of genius is teaching and speaking. Yeah. Which a lot of people's zone of genius is teaching and speaking, but it can look a hell of a lot like coaching. Oh, yeah. Right? Oh, yeah. So you got to get real and radically honest with yourself. What is my zone of genius? So maybe that's your zone of genius. Okay, well then in what ways do you love to creatively express that? Well, I love to do that through podcasting. I love to do that through programs. I love to do that through, teaching on my Instagram. Okay, well then those are like you said earlier, those are the things that you do. Yeah. And then what do we need to outsource? And then what do we need to get help with? Now, some people listening are like, but I'm not in the place that I might be able to hire outsourcing. Of course, we've all been there. Yeah. Absolutely, we've all been there. Well, can you barter with somebody? Can you trade services with somebody? Can you enroll AI? Yeah. Right? Can you, instead of hiring the expensive video, the Austin video guy who's if they live in Austin, they're gonna be like 4 times the price, or can you go on Fiverr or Upwork and find someone who specializes in this for probably a fraction of the cost? Yeah, and can you do it from a heart-centered, integrity-based perspective? For sure. I spoke about this another time where I was like, if you can't because you don't have the funds, and let's be real, sometimes you just don't have the funds. I know there are some coaching where it's like, well, just keep going and invest, and it's like sometimes you literally just don't have the money, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you still have to go at it alone. And can you look at the people and go, hey, I could barter with a friend of mine. I think we could really support each other. 3 or 4 or 5 friends of you get together, or you can find someone to trade with. Come a very heart-centered, non-transactional mindset. Exactly. Of course, there is a transaction that happens inside of it. Yeah, completely. And what can I get from you is a different energy when you go into trading with someone. And so I just wanted to kind of drop that there. I love that. Because I've seen that a lot where you'll trade something with someone, but then the trade is not energetically aligned. So true. And from their perspective, it might be, but not always. Yeah. And it leaves kind of a bad taste. And then you're like, well, I'm just going to do it all myself. And then it's just, you're back into doing it yourself. And so yes, where can you trade? Where can you barter? Where can you work together with maybe friends and get together and do that? There's a lot of people who would be willing to do that if you just get in your heart-centered space. So it's like, how can we help one another? Definitely. And I also want to say too, if you're finding yourself where that's not available and you do, like some people are more in that solopreneur space where they're like, I can't just work in my zone of genius. I have to do this stuff right now. Then recognize that that's only for a season. Yes. right?
And if it goes beyond the season, you need to look at something.
Completely, right? It's only for the season.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's a lot of conversations around this, like, outsourcing and all that. And sometimes it really isn't an option, especially if you're coming out of burnout and you're rebuilding a company.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so it really might not be an option for you. Then recognize, okay, then I'm going to have to turn on my, like, this worker in me, but I'm moving it toward a goal, right? I'm moving it toward my vision.
Yeah.
And my goal is to make this much money so then I then can hire it out.
Yeah.
So be very structured in that and be very aware. Okay, I want to make, $5,000 a month, and 1,000 of those dollars, once I get there, $1,500 is going to go toward an executive assistant or an assistant or a video editor or whatever this is, so that I then can stay in my zone of genius.
Yes.
Right. And this is kind of the part of leadership or being a CEO that not many people want to do.
Yeah.
They don't want to budget and they don't want to think about it. They just want to, like, make the money and do whatever we want with it. But this is a part of being, the feminine leadership in the feminine CEO. There is this badass boss energy that gets to come alive. And it's like, wait a second, I do have to start looking at things that way.
Yeah.
What will it look like if I do this, this, and this? Okay, well then when I make this much money, I'm going to do this and outsource this. And then this is going to help me have a further ROI, but it's also going to help me stay in my genius so that I then can have a further ROI.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a lot of noise and, excuse my French here, a lot of bullshit in the conversations around investing in yourself. Mm-hmm. Invest before you're ready. Just put the money out there. Don't do that.
Invest at your edge.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
And
Don't do it.
Fall right off of the edge.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It's so dumb. It's such a lie. It's such modern marketing that's trying to just manipulate, truly. Mm-hmm. Like, invest when you're in a grounded, powerful state and knowing why you're investing, the vision that it's helping you move toward, and you trust yourself and you trust the person or the service that you're investing in.
Yeah.
And I say that from a place of experience. Like, I've invested in so many coaches and mentors, and also like so many branding experts and so many different things. And like 94% of the time, it's like,
that wasn't what I needed.
that was dumb. Why did I spend that money?
Yeah.
And it's a regret of mine, but I've also learned a lot from it. So make sure that everything that you're doing within your company is moving you toward that, whatever place that you're at within.
Yeah, I feel like too, at the same time, I had this client recently who she reached a point where she literally just couldn't do it herself anymore.
Yeah.
There was so many things happening.
Yeah.
And I always call that the solopreneur to CEO journey. You're about to step into CEO, and there's so many things that you've been doing because you've been wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
And there might be a point where you're like, okay, I am investing in that area because I physically do not have the capacity anymore to be able to handle this myself. Yeah. And so that might be a little bit of an edge for you because you've been doing it all of yourself.
Definitely.
And so, push your edge a little bit in that way, maybe.
For sure.
Because you shouldn't be doing it alone. And it's not the same thing as you dropping $200,000 on a branding expert when it's like, maybe that's not the edge that you need to push.
Definitely.
Maybe it's actually, I need some more support so I can be in my zone of genius.
For sure.
And so I love that you brought that up because there is a big story around that, especially in the coaching industry.
It's stupid.
It is stupid. I know. I'm like, there's one thing I love about you. I'm like, this is such bullshit.
I'm like, it's such bullshit.
Like, no.
Do you need to invest in yourself to succeed? For sure. Of course you do.
And there's a lot of ways that you
And
can
there's
invest.
a lot of ways that you can do that,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes back to, like, know yourself.
Yep.
Like, know yourself. Mm-hmm. And if you've gone through burnout or a mental, physical, emotional health battle or journey as it relates to you and your company, you've learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
You're no longer working in naivety. Mm-hmm. You're working in true wisdom.
Yeah.
A lot of people, myself included, start their companies and start their journey as CEOs, and there's a lot of naivety, right? And it's cute and it's sweet, but there's a lot of naivety. And when you go through a journey, do I think everyone needs to burn out to be successful? No.
I know.
Do I think all of us hit a rock bottom? Yes.
Yeah.
You look at Joseph Campbell's core body of work with the hero's journey. You go into the underworld is the way that he describes it. Carl Jung has similar body of work and perspective way back in his day. It's like you're in the underworld and then you come out and it's like, oh, you've made it, right? So do I think that every successful person goes through that? I do, actually. And in that process, you know yourself so well. So if you're in it, or you're just about to be in it, or you're coming out of it, or you've been out of it, you know yourself. So what does it look like to run your company from the place of like, I know myself?
I think what happened in that rock bottom too, is the story of this strategy or this thing I'm selling will save you dies away. I don't know if that feels...
Nothing will save you except for
nothing.
you.
Exactly. And so for me, that's a lot of the like, hey, here's my strategy to be on social media. Hey, I'm going to sell you, I'm going to show you how to do this, whatever it is.
Right.
And when you're first starting, I was definitely felt this. When I was just getting into the entrepreneurship world, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the thing. This is going to be the thing that's going to push me forward.
Literally.
It's like, it's a rite of passage for entrepreneurship, I swear.
So true.
And I feel like when I hit my rock bottom, it's not like rock bottom, but there was the underworld of my entrepreneurship journey. I had this moment where my recognition was, actually it's my intuitive strategy, it's my knowing. Yeah. I had all the knowledge I needed to, and of course there's going to be more knowledge and more things to learn and everything. But I had to do the thing that I wasn't admitting that I needed to do. And in that, I also had to honor the fact that I couldn't do it all myself. Like my going through the underworld was going, hey, this is not the business model that matches you. Yeah. This is not what you want to do in your zone of genius. For sure. And also, you can't operate like this anymore. And that's when I started really leaning into the team that I have, because this is a projector thing for me, at least, is I do not have all the energy to do all the things. But since I've hired 2 key team members who they just get me and I love them, I can just say the things, do the things that are in my zone of genius, and they're like boom, 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 because I make them happen. By the way, they're generators, and if you're a projector, please, for the love of God, hire a generator. Yeah. Because they just, they just take it and run with it. Yeah, save yourself. And my underworld was admitting that I don't need to keep pushing to do all these things myself. Yeah. And I didn't need to buy another course or have another coach or anything like that. And I took a big like pause from any of that. It wasn't until recently that I started diving back into learning for the sake of learning. For sure. And enjoyment, because I love learning. Yeah. But I got into this version of myself where I learned because I thought I didn't understand something. Yeah. And I didn't get something in business. So I needed this coach, or I needed this topic, or whatever it is. Yeah. And it shifted to, what if I just learn because I'm curious? Yeah. Now I'm satisfied with the thing that I'm learning, versus that there is something lacking within me. For sure. And really looking at your business model and how you're doing things and going, actually, you do have the answer. Yeah. No one outside of you is going to give that answer. We might give direction and some guidance and some mentorship, which is beautiful. I love mentorship. Yeah. I had a time of coaching, which I think they're a little bit different in my experience, at least, but I had a time for that. It served me well. I'll never say that it was a regret or anything like that. The regret for me was like, I didn't believe in myself. Right. The way that, and there was a lot of stories around. For sure. Why. Yeah. And when I had admitted the thing that I actually had to do, which was be seen and like actually own what I do and how I do it, that was what really shifted. And I can't do it alone. For sure. For me, at least. And I would really encourage, and I want to dive deeper into this, but I would really encourage the people listening and watching to look at what business model you have. Yeah. And the structure you have in a business. And is it you, or is it some version of a model that you were given? I know the coaching industry blew up. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. And hey, you need to be on a call weekly. They get Voxer support. Get them in a 3-month container, and then roll them into a year container, and then roll them into this. That for me, like, it burns me out so much. Yeah. I can't even do a lot of one-on-one work right now. For sure. Very few and far between, because I was in a burned out model. Yeah. So I had to shift my entire business model. Definitely. Yeah. How did yours shift for your business model? Like,
I mean, I was working one-on-one with so many clients, masterminds, one-on-one, live programs. A lot of it was centered around coaching and mentoring. And then I realized I like it. Yeah. I like coaching. I'm a really good coach, but I love teaching and I love speaking so much more. And I've been a teacher my entire life. Like that's what I did before I became an entrepreneur. But it was even not even like just my business model, but it also was how I was creating content, what my brand even was, the work that I was doing in this world. You know, a lot of people look at Reels because Instagram algorithm, it does very much support Reels.
Yeah.
Because of their competition with TikTok, right? Keep going back. Because of their competition with TikTok. And before that, it was because of their competition with YouTube, which is when they prioritize long form content. And so you look at this and it's like, so many of my past clients hated doing Reels. I'm like, okay, well, then let's take a look at this. What other platforms do you like? Well, I love speaking. Well, maybe more of a podcast. But also, you don't have to do Reels the way that like all the kids are doing Reels where you're like dancing.
I love that you started moving you're moving your hands in the dance.
You know, like they're like these like dancing monkeys.
Yeah.
Like, how could you actually, if you want to play the game, if you want to play the Instagram game, you've got to understand the Instagram game. But how do you play it your way? So can you go into the real world, right? Like play with Reels, but do it in a way that supports you and your zone of genius. So can you go teach something really quickly? Well, the hooks and all these things, we have to grab people's attention. You do. So how can you make your brand support that, right? So it's like when you're coming from this place of feminine leadership and like long-term success and sustainable, satisfied CEO, you have to know yourself so deeply, but then also look at the world that you're playing in. If you're choosing to be on Instagram, you're choosing to play within the algorithm. So how can you, from a place of embodiment, actually look at that and play the freaking game so that you can have more eyes on you? And that is important with a sustainable business, right? Same thing with podcasting. How can you go in and how can you play that game? Because you're going in and playing these games. There's these structures that are already set up.
And do you want to play that game?
And do you want to play that game?
Like that one specifically?
Yes. Do you want to be on Instagram? Some people like love the TikTok way.
Yeah.
Me personally, in this part of my life, maybe in the future I'll like it, but I'm like, that sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
You know, like Facebook, never really vibed with it. You know, so what are the structures that are already put in place, the platforms that are put into place, and then how can you go on those platforms as fully yourself and then utilize those platforms to be seen
and build your structure and your baseline and your foundation of your business to be sustainable because you're actually enjoying the thing that you're doing.
Exactly.
And you're coming at it from a perspective of, oh my God, this is how I work and this is what I enjoy.
Completely.
Because even, I'll take this as an example. A year ago, first of all, I'm not a social media fan. I've never have been. And it was my first job. I was like a social media specialist.
I remember you said that, yeah.
Oh my God. But for the longest time, I didn't even build my business on social media. I'm just now starting on social media. And that's fine because I built it intuitively. I was like, no, I like referrals. I like relationships. I like that. And so I built my business from that, a sustainable business, doing it that way. And I said, you know, I do want to be on social media. I just want to be seen differently. Let me go play in this. How can I get visible in a way where I'm curious and fun? I even shifted the word content because it wasn't working for me. It's not what content am I putting out this week or this month or this season on the platform. It's what conversations are we having on the platform.
So good.
What conversations am I having this week?
Right.
What's coming up for me? And so even that one shift in language made it more pleasurable
for sure
and sustainable for me.
So good.
It gave me a more aligned structure for my business because I wasn't like, oh my God, this person says I need to do this type of content and I got to keep up with this. That's so, like, even as I'm saying it, my voice starts, like, your energy just starts to vibrate a little bit differently. And it's like, well,
because it goes to have to instead of like, this is fun to create.
Yes.
Right. And that is the feminine leadership. It's fun to create.
Yes.
I enjoy creating. You know, a lot of people, and they'll experience this in burnout if this is your path, we confuse creation with achievements. And we think achievement is creation, but they're completely different.
Especially with that dopamine hit, just added right in with all those likes.
Right, but like, what does it look like to just create? And I asked myself that as I've been restructuring my entire life in company, is I put in my Instagram bio, nothing except for like new era coming soon.
I saw that, like new era loading or like.
Yeah, it was just like, and then I added in the meantime, living, learning, growing a human and just being real about all that comes along with it. Like that's just where I'm at with my life right now. And I just gave myself permission to have no content pillars, just do whatever the hell I wanted. And I've literally just been creating content and whatever I'm like, okay, I'm learning about dopamine. right now and how it relates to success. Do I want to have that conversation? Do I want to share that? No, not really. That's just for me and whatever. Okay, perfect. Do I want to talk about this? And I'm like sharing more of my life and more of like my humor and more behind the scenes. I literally shared the most candid, ridiculous video that you'd ever see in your entire life. I peed my pants because I'm pregnant.
I laughed so hard at the video. Like, oh my God.
I peed my pants and I'm pregnant and I have no shame in any aspect of life. I have no shame in sharing the realness of life. And I wanted to know what my husband's reaction was. I've been doing videos throughout my pregnancy with me and my husband that just for us.
Yeah.
And I set this up in my office when he was bringing me eggs and breakfast. And, you know, I was like, babe, I peed my pants. I sneezed and I peed my pants. And his reaction was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like ridiculous in kind. But I'm like shocked that that's his reaction. And to the point where he's like, oh my, he noticed, like, are you recording this? And then it's like a minute of our life. And this is just literally our life. Like probably could post so many other videos. And it's got over 1 million views. I've got over 500 new followers from it.
Oh my God.
And it's like, it has nothing to do with anything except for me pissing my pants because it's just a normal part of life, you know? And so it's like, that is, I'm not telling you to go, you know, pee your pants and record a video about it, but feminine leadership, right? And like sustainable leadership is creating and sharing in ways that are just you. Mm-hmm. You know, like it doesn't always have to be structured and sitting down and here are the 3 things like,
or here's the pretty polished version.
Yeah. Like people want realness. They want truth. They want raw. They want to hear the real stuff. Yes, we want to learn, but we also just want real, you know? And so I think that's a huge aspect of your company and the future of life and business is like, just how can you build a business in a way that's just so you, mm-hmm. that every single aspect of it just has so much you.
Yeah.
And the core of that is knowing yourself.
I love that. I had someone recently say to me, because I'm in a season of visibility myself. And they said to me, they're like, I want to see the shadows. Give me the shadows. Give me the dark side of things. And I had this moment where I was like, but I don't have that. Should I be showing that? Should I be putting that out? And once upon a time I did. I went through the underworld. I did the things. I don't really have moments where I'm like, oh my God, I'm breaking down, mm-hmm. crying, and I want to show that to the world. Not just because I want to show it to the world, it doesn't happen very often for me. And I had this moment where I was like, I can be completely real. And then some people are like, oh, but like, is that what's real? Mm-hmm. Right? And it's just an interesting thing that I'm noticing as you were describing that, because while you don't have to like put all of the breakdown moments on social media or anything or feel obligated to share, it can be something beautiful. It can be something real and just nostalgic. It can be something real and a moment when you're out walking your dog and you're like, God, this is freaking beautiful outside. And if you find yourself consuming social media where you're like, but I want to see the real raw parts and like it has to like show me the parts where you break, it's like, you know, that's not always what life is, right? Like, we'll have seasons where we're going to go through a depressive episode or it's challenging or it's intense or we lost somebody or whatever it is. And we don't have to show that all the time. Not that you're hiding. For sure. Not that you're bypassing. For sure. Not that anything like that. It's, for the most part, I have a pretty stable life. Yeah. You know, I don't really have high highs and low lows, but I have moments where I'm like, holy shit, am I doing this? And then I have a moment where I'm like, do I want to even share this? Yeah. And so it's an interesting dynamic that you get to figure out in your business of what. Completely. And it's not being like, oh, I'm going to put on a pretty polished face and I'm not going to ever show anything. No, we want realness. We do want that. Yeah. But it's also like you don't have to put out every single part of your business and your life either. Completely. So figuring out what that balance is for you. Yep. And I want to ask one more question before we wrap it out, because this is something, actually probably 2. When you look at like your offers and your business as you've been shifting into we talk about social media. Yeah. What is your most ideal of how you would structure your offers? I shifted mine recently and it's been so much better. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just curious what yours, like how yours are. Yeah. I'm still discovering it, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm still discovering what I want my like work to do in this world. Yeah. You know? And so I'm still discovering what that is. I love in person. I'm not creating any offers in the time. You know, I'm coming up on gonna have a baby in 4 weeks. I know.
You know, so I got to figure out what life is going to look like and what my role in the world is going to be after that.
Yeah.
So I'm still discovering that. I would love to do in person in the future. I love in person. I throw epic retreat experiences. I've done it many, many, many times. And I actually kind of stopped doing it when I moved to Austin a few years ago. So it was so much more fun when I was on the road doing it, just because I could like go to different places and be like, we're going to do a retreat here. And I definitely have some really cool learning type experiences up my sleeve. But right now, I'm not planning on creating anything in the next few months.
I love that you have, like, I know that when you even just share what you're learning on social media.
Oh yeah, I always share what I'm learning.
I think that's amazing. Like having one thing I love is just seeing different models and ways of people doing things.
Yes, well you have to remember I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
My core zone of genius and archetype is a teacher.
I love it.
You know, I was a kindergarten teacher, first grade teacher, a special ed teacher, and an interventionist. And a massive part of my 8-year career as a teacher was teaching teachers.
Gotcha.
Because I was an interventionist, and so I was really would run our professional developments. So a huge piece of the core of my existence is teaching. I love teaching things in a way, like taking very complex topics and breaking them down, and then breaking them down in ways in which somebody can take one little thing out of it and be like, ooh, that I can take and I can run with.
I resonate with this.
Right.
I swear, I think this is a projector thing because I get the same response from people.
So for me being a teacher, like what I'm loving in life right now and within my leadership is following my own curiosity. And then I follow my own curiosity and I love learning. I'm a devoted student to life and I learn for myself. And then I'm like, well, what would be fun to share with the world? What would be fun to teach other people?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's kind of what it is that I've been doing. And I've just been having so much fun with it.
Oh, I love this because I remember a time at the very beginning of my business where I'm like, I love writing.
Yeah.
I love just going and traveling and being curious and exploring certain topics.
Yeah.
And then the thought came in on Lil Baby Taylor as an entrepreneur was like, but how do I make money doing this?
Of course.
Right. And even now, years later, I will have this moment. I'm like, oh, okay, because it's like the conditioning. It's like,
yeah,
how do I turn this into a product? And I was like, oh, I don't need to turn this into a product, first of all, unless I really want to. But I could just enjoy doing this thing. And I want to encourage people too. It's like, but if you do actually want to like make money, there's so many ways to make money from doing the things that you love doing.
Yeah.
And can you just do them because you love them?
For sure.
And because you want to enjoy them and you want to share them and let life unfold because you don't even know what may come of it. You could be like, oh yeah, I got asked to be on a TED Talk stage and they're going to pay me this money because I was sharing about happiness and all the things. I invited you to talk because I was seeing you share those things that you were loving learning. And I was like, oh my God, we got to talk about this. And so while it's beautiful to go in and be like, okay, how can I make money in my business?
Definitely.
Can you be curious and shift and not look at everything through an offer lens?
Yep.
And go, actually, how can I just explore something I really love and I'm curious about? And maybe an opportunity will come, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
You know, and being able to just kind of shift that a little bit too, because I'm learning photography.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn for years.
That's really cool.
And it's not because I want to be a photographer.
Yeah.
It's because I want something that I've always wanted to learn it and it's new and I love learning.
Definitely.
And so I love what you said about, you know, the satisfied CEO around feminine leaders and a feminine CEO and where we're going in the world, because not everything has to have a price tag.
Yeah.
Not everything has to be, well, I'm going to turn this into a business. In fact, I would encourage people to take a step back and go, okay, well, how are you actually enjoying your life?
Completely. And a lot of people are doing that. Like, okay, I learned this and this was fun, so let me try to profit on it. I learned this and this is fun, let me try to profit on it. And guess what? It's not working.
It's not.
Because if you don't have there's so many reasons why it's not working. Brand, visibility, trust, likability, leadership. There's so many reasons why. It's like
Sometimes a lack of integrity.
For sure. It's like, be a devoted student to yourself first.
Yeah.
And then bring that if you want to into your business. Yeah. But, you know, really sustainability within the CEO is that rooted and groundedness in the full embodiment of yourself.
Yeah.
So let yourself go on those journeys.
I love that. I feel like I just keep talking about this. When I got into human design, and then we'll wrap it up, is when I got into human design, I got into it because I was curious.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, what is this?
Yep.
I'm going to play with this. And then I was living an experiment for 3+ years.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I can practically apply this to business, but I didn't dive a year into human design being like, I'm going to teach everybody human design and make it an offer. And even though it's part of my business now, it's not all of my business. It's just one little thing.
It's a massive tool.
It's a massive tool.
But it's not everything.
It's not everything. And so playing with your offers, playing with your structures, with your sustainability, I do it because it brings me joy.
Yeah.
Not because I know it's going to bring me money.
Definitely.
And to be able to practically take those little pieces and give them to people, I just love it. And so my last question, and we will wrap it up, is what is the definition of a feminine CEO to you? And where do you see the future of that going?
I love that. For me or for the world?
For both. Yeah.
Cool. What is the definition of a feminine CEO?
In your perspective?
You know, it's funny because it's like a CEO to me, like if I break it down, right? CEO is like, she's a badass. She is a creator. She's a badass. She's a builder. She or he, right? Like you got the vision and you're bringing it to life. Is the CEO, and then the feminine is simply doing it in the most aligned, truest way to you. You know, like, I think the CEO is like, and maybe it's because I'm becoming a mother and I have this whole, like, the thing that I'm going through and this journey that I'm going through, what is it to become, like a mom, she's not always a soft, sensual, like snuggle bug, right? Like she's the mama bear.
Yeah.
She's a badass mama bear.
Yep.
You know, and so I really think about that energy as it relates to the CEO. Yeah, and the feminine, it's very simple. It's like, who are you? And doing it your way. And then what does that look like for me in the future? It's just that, you know, I have a vision for where we're going and I want the vision to come to life like yesterday. But it's not time for it to come to life yesterday. And so I'm enjoying this process of the next evolution of me and my work in this world and like really enjoying the process of it. And it's you know what it is. Yeah. I'll say it because I've started to drop it. Like I'm going into the world of podcasting.
Yes.
And I've had a podcast before. I actually had a podcast for a couple of years. Many people don't know this. Don't look up the Jenna Kennedy show because you're going to see a previous iteration. I messaged the girl who used to do my podcast. I'm like, can you delete this off the face of the earth? But I have 131 episodes. Like I was a very committed podcaster, but I didn't know anything about branding, about marketing, about nothing. I just was doing it for fun.
Yeah.
And then I stopped because I lived in an RV. But that's aside the point. But that was very much like I was a coach and I had a podcast to help support my coaching business. And I'm really moving into becoming a podcaster. And it's a whole new industry. I'm learning an insane amount right now. There's not too many people that just are podcasters. There's a lot of people who, you know, have podcasting as a kind of like a side part to support their companies. And I'm not really wanting that at all. I'm really wanting to dive headfirst into podcasting. And so I'm studying and I'm learning from people like Andrew Huberman and Chris Williamson and Diary of a CEO and, you know, some other Mel Robbins. I've been really studying what it means to be a successful podcaster. And within that is really thought leadership. And it's a new level of teaching and, you know, a new level of leadership, a new completely different type of leadership that I've never known before. And so I am recognizing that I am the smallest of small fish in an ocean, not even a pond, in an ocean. And I'm learning. And I've got a lot of friends that are big in that space that I'm learning from. And I've got a lot of things that I'm just naturally following my intuition and learning. But it's been in the works and it's a learning curve.
I can't wait to hear what you learn from this. My giddy, like nerdy side is like, oh my God, what is she learning from this? Let's learn about podcasting. Because that's a whole, and I want to honor you for like, that's a whole different business model.
It's an industry.
It's a whole industry.
Yeah. I thought it was really just like coaching and like a podcast.
No.
And the more that I'm getting into it, I'm like literally learning an industry.
Yes.
And it's humbling.
Yeah.
Especially coming from, I was a 7-figure, you know, coach. And I like was a leader in the coaching space. Yeah. And then to like go through everything, to let it crumble, and then to have no identity attached to it, and then just be like, oh, I want to be a podcaster. And now, do I have experience doing it? Of course. Have I been on 100 podcasts? Of course. and I'm going into a new industry. If I feel like my friends who have broken out of coaching and gone into a product industry, I watch them learn like that's a whole new world, like overhead and all that. I'm like, oh yeah. But yeah, to like a podcaster and integrity is it's such a learning curve.
It's so fun that you're doing it though, is like, that's going to be my focus. I know it's like a whole nother identity, of course. It's a whole nother industry.
For sure.
But just to know that it, like the coaching is not the only way and 9 to 5 is not the only way. There are different industries that you can study. I get so turned on by studying different industries. I'm just like, ooh, let's learn some more about how this works because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited for you. And I love that that's just a natural progression too, at least from what I see, because you're very well spoken.
Thank you.
I was even telling someone recently, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk to her, we have a conversation. And they're like, oh my God, that's amazing, because she has an amazing voice.
Oh my God.
And the way that she speaks, I just want to stop and listen.
Thank you.
And they're like, it's not just like her voice, it's the way that she holds herself and how she guides you through things. And I'm like,
oh, tell that person that I love them.
Okay.
To call me tomorrow.
I'm like, I agree, 1000%.
But this is something that comes up. Like there's a whole new level of imposter syndrome. There's a whole new level of do I have what it takes? Like I told my husband and my therapist a couple times, I was like, I've never actually been afraid to fail. I've never had a fear of failure.
And curiosity is stronger.
Yes, but I like even when I went into coaching and I left a career that I had a path on, that I was going to become a principal. And I left and I had no fear because I just believed in myself. I was like, I can coach, I can do this. And when you're a business coach, I shut down, a multiple 6-figure nutrition coaching company to go into this world of business coaching to be like, do I actually know what I'm doing? But I was never afraid to fail. For the first time in my entire life, I'm experiencing a fear of failure. I'm experiencing, am I well-spoken enough? Do I know do I know what to do? Like I'm experiencing these fears that I've never even had a glimpse of. When somebody told me I'm afraid to fail, I could not relate to that person. I was like, I don't get it. I can empathize, but I cannot relate to you. Same thing with like when people would doubt their ability. I'm like, I don't know if I've just like my dad, one of the only lessons he taught me growing up, he's taught me a lot more in adulthood, was say anything with confidence, people will believe you. I don't know if I just rode that out for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm coming up against these massive fears that I've never had in my entire life because of the newness and the unknown of it. And so it's a journey.
I can relate to that because I decided to start a media company.
Oh yeah. Hello everybody. Hello cameras and room and
it's one thing to have a business based on a coaching model.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be like, I'm going to be a podcaster. I'm going to run a media company. This is not just a podcast that I'm putting out, or it's not just a one segment thing that's supporting my business, but not as all of my business.
Yeah.
Like you're going full into a podcasting industry versus like your podcast being a side thing that helps support.
Completely.
Same thing with the media company.
Yeah.
It's a whole different stretch.
Yes.
Whole different level of what a CEO and what your version of a feminine CEO is going to look like.
Completely. You have to learn so many different things. And I don't know about you at the media company because that's something obviously I haven't studied. But one thing I've noticed that's intimidating but also a challenge is that when I look at the top charts of podcasts, and I'm looking specifically through the lens of teaching and being a little bit more educational, but also like I want it to be very fun and light and exciting because we need to freaking lighten this shit up again.
Agreed.
But when I look at it, a lot of the podcasts that I'm studying from the top charts are dominated by men.
Yes.
And I'm like, no, listen, I'm not like gonna be like, we need to change this.
No.
Like I'm noticing and I'm like, holy shit, like this is, when you're looking at a certain level of podcasting, it is dominated by males.
Yes.
So then I'm looking at it and I'm like, I'm pregnant. Like, what am I doing? Like it's a trippy thing to embark on.
I think it's beautiful though, because I went into a bookstore and I was looking for a business book. And I had no business books by women.
Damn.
Nothing. And when I finally decided, I made the decision to do this media company, I was like, this is gonna be where women go to learn about feminine-based business. Because we don't have, and the people who write the books, I want to showcase the books on here.
So good.
Because we don't have the feminine version or the female women version of this because it is such a male-dominated industry in so many different ways. And so I love that you're approaching podcasting, like the podcast. You're like, no, I'm going to call it now. This is Projector Psychic. She's going to be like one of the top podcasts, and the women just like blowing it out and doing it your way.
Thank you.
Because you could go in and be like, how are they doing it? How can I replicate it?
For sure.
Of course, you learn something.
Completely.
But you're also going to do it in your way.
Definitely.
And I love that. And if that's not a message to end on, like, I don't know what is. It's like, go learn the things, take what resonate, leave the rest, and do it your way in a way that honors who you are as a feminine leader.
Yeah.
Without burning yourself out.
Yep.
And doing all the things that the masculine does. We love them, and we can do it a different way.
Yeah, we're not meant to do it that way.
We're not meant to do it that way.
Just like we're not meant to do health that way. We're not meant to do life that way.
No.
We're all different. And even you and I, both as projectors, we're going to do it different ways.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because we're different humans.
Yes.
So yeah, find your way.
I love this. Oh my God, this is so amazing. Oh, I feel like it's just, I could talk forever with you, and I'm like, we need to go live our lives. Okay, so this is so good. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Down below on every episode, I almost forgot about this part, you can find links, you can find Q&A forms. If you have questions, there's always one in the show notes and descriptions for every single episode. I know I did not mention that. I forget that after a while. And I'm gonna connect you with this lovely woman.
Oh.
And so, but she's about to have a baby, so, you know,
I'll still be there.
she'll be there. But I'll
see it eventually.
Yeah, and then you can watch her grow as she's getting into the podcasting industry and ask her all the questions. And I hope that this resonated. I hope you can relate. I hope it helped. And if there's any questions that you guys have, please do not hesitate to reach out. Like I said, there is a form, but you can also connect with us on social.
Yeah.
Unless you're stepping away from social because you don't want those dopamine hits, that's totally fine too. Either way, reach out, ask the questions. We are here because burnout is definitely an option. And we can go about this in a more sustainable way. So thank you so much. This was so fun.
Yay.
Thank you so much for listening to this Wildly Satisfied production. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love it if you would share it with someone that you love, leave a review, or come tag us on social media at Wildly Satisfied.